Hello, everyone. This is George. I'm the CISO at Trustero, and today I have Nick with me, who leads our product. We have two interesting features to introduce and talk about. I'm pretty excited about them um, because, at least in the past, those have been problematic for me. Um, Not only here in Trustero, but in general, because they involve a lot of manual labor and they're prone to errors. The first one is about citations. It is related to work documents. So when you verify on operating effectiveness of a control, you want to have citations to why exactly this control is working. So really like working papers. And the second one is related to tables. This is when you have a list of evidence with multiple columns and you just go down through the list and find out whether you fit a certain criteria. So as I said, both of them are time consuming, very mundane, prone to errors. So Nick is going to go through to those two features and help us understand it. Nick, please take it ahead.
Sure, yeah. So this one, as George mentioned, this is really just a continuation of a theme we've got at Trustero about being able to show our work. So our operating effectiveness check has been around for a while now, but one of the things we heard from different users is they wanted to see the details, really what is going on under the hood. So this feature lays out in great detail what is going on, and actually this is the type of visibility that auditors typically are looking for as they're conducting an examination and test. So this lays out all of the different items that were looked at and connects the dots so everybody can follow. So in order to show off this feature, we're going to start with this example control here. This is an asset management control, laptop protection and management. And as you can see here, it's going to fail the operating effectiveness check. For this control, we're going to look in particular at a couple of the test procedures. We've got this inventory completeness validation test procedure and a couple of things I'll draw your attention to in here. In addition to typical stuff like the device having a name or a serial number, we've also added in the requirement to have a location and the employee's email address who owns that. So that's gonna come up here in a minute. And then you'll also see here, we're gonna have an encryption status verification. So we're gonna make sure that the laptops all have their drives encrypted. And if they don't, that would be a gap or an exception. Make sure there's malware on here. Make sure that the MDM solution can enforce policies that are on the laptop. So for this particular control, we've got just one sample piece of evidence. This is in this case, it just comes out of a spreadsheet, but it's an example of the type of evidence that would be produced by a MDM solution. And this is just a screenshot of that so we can demo it here. And so you see, we've got a bunch of these fields that were required above, including this file vault status. You'll notice a couple of folks have that disabled. So let's then go back and take a look at what the operating effectiveness check thinks about all this stuff. So I'll flip over to the examine and test tab here, and we'll scroll down and have a look. Those of you who are familiar with our OE check, this top part will look pretty familiar. This is the same as what we used to have. So it'll give you kind of high level what happened, how did we do on each test. And you'll see these first two, inventory completeness, this test failed. Encryption status verification, this test is partially met, but there were exceptions. And then the other ones passed successfully. So we've passed 2 out of the 4. Now the new part is now we're going to show you under here this test details. For every test, we're going to show you why the test passed or failed. And then we're also going to have this evidence and sources section down here where you actually get to see what the system did in terms of evaluating each piece of applicable evidence for that test. So this gives you a ton of detail. And a interesting thing here is you'll notice the individual evidence came back okay, but the issue was that, and it's here in the middle, specifically, it's lacking information on the assigned location of laptops and the designated employee's email address. So it's saying, yeah, this piece of evidence looks okay, but you didn't give me everything. And therefore, evidence checks out, but the test is not successful. So that's why that particular one is going to fail. And then moving down here to the encryption status verification, we can see that this is also highlighted here with this fuchsia color, so telling you there's an issue. And then in this case, the particular evidence actually is the problem. And it's saying that, the piece of evidence is applicable, blah, blah, blah. However, the evidence contains exceptions, specifically identifying laptops where encryption, in this case, file vault, is disabled. Such exceptions are critical, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then here at the test level, it actually even identifies who the individuals were who didn't have file vault configured properly. So there are specific exceptions noted where encryption file vault is disabled on Pat's laptop and Taylor's Mac, or Pat's MacBook and Taylor's MacBook. We can see here, so if we pop open the evidence, we can see, sure enough, here's Taylor, and Taylor doesn't have file vault, and neither does Pat. So those were indeed the culprits. And so operating effectiveness now is really showing all the details of the work.
Yeah, I'm unique, and I'm sure I'll have a conversation with both Pat and Nick after this discussion. More importantly, this is the level of audit work papers that you expect from people who perform the audit or check the controls. And that highlights the value of AI because essentially it's doing the work that a human can do, but it's less error prone than humans. The other thing is that currently we use the evidence that you uploaded. However, we can also use receptors so we can connect directly to the system and pull that evidence from there. So we can either run this check once as part of the audit preparation, or we can run it continuously, pulling the evidence as part of a continuous control monitoring as a more mature risk management problem.
That's right. It'll look at manual or automated evidence and treats it all the same. And we'll find those things, whether, like you're saying, if you just want to do it once or if you want to do it on an ongoing basis.
So the next example we want to talk about is somewhat related. Again, it refers to tables. But in this case, we're talking about evidence that involves multiple columns. For example, you have a list of users and their roles, and we want to verify whether we have the proper number of users with admin access, and we don't go over a certain one. Again, this is a little bit design control to fail. So please show us how the evidence is done and how this control is checking.
Sure. Yeah, so we've got a new feature, test tables. So test tables are something that auditors will produce when they're looking at tabular data. And so they'll need to show, pass fail status at the row level a lot of times as part of their examination and testing. And we've created that same capability here. So got a couple of example controls. They're based on the same underlying control, just with different demo data here attached. So this is a secure development control, access to source code. And the particular test procedure here is making sure that there aren't too many admins. Validate that admin level access within the source code management system is restricted to no more than 3 individuals. And so, just making sure there aren't too many folks in there. This feature is actually producing a new artifact that we're releasing, which is a test table. Okay, so for test tables, we're going to look at a new control here. This is a secure development control. And the test procedure for this, we want to validate that admin level access within the source code management system is restricted to no more than 3 individuals. So the evidence we're going to get is evidence from a source code management system, in this case, GitHub, and we're just going to count admins. That's basically what this test procedure does. And when an auditor is doing this, they would typically take that kind of tabular data. They would actually have a table and they would count these things up, highlighting rows. And then if you exceeded the number, it would indicate that. And as you can see, what we're expecting in this one is it's actually going to fail because we have too many admins. Just like in Cite sources, we get this rich set of information, but now we're also going to get one additional thing, which is a test table. And you can see here, it's flagging this, and you can see a particular piece of evidence does fail. It says the evidence, blah, 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 failed due to the number of users with admin level access exceeding the threshold of 3. So let's see how this is presented. We can open up this test table and we can see, so it has this kind of high level title for it. And then it gets right to the point and says that we expected less than or equal to 3 of these things, and we actually got 4. The thing that's very cool is this less than or equal to 3 is based on that natural language that actually exists within the test procedure. So if I, had written it a different way, change the number, etc., this system will pick up those nuances and then it will ultimately break this down so that it's looking for whatever the threshold is, counting things, comparing things, and then we'll give you the detailed breakdown. So you can see here, it says, here's your test procedure. Validate that admin level access within the source code management system is restricted to no more than 3 individuals. We've actually got a link over to the evidence if we want to go look at it. And then we've got the table, and it's going to highlight the folks who had admin enabled. And sure enough, there's 4 of those. And so we can see, okay, I've exceeded the number, and that's why I've got this problem. This thing will also work with other scenarios. So it'll work with percentage-based scenarios as well. So you can word it, in terms of, no more than 5% of users should be admins. You can also use other natural language like everyone or all users should have such and such. And then it produces these results again in a way that shows all of the detail that is up to the requirements that an auditor would need from a test table.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. And again, this is a really, really detailed working paper with specific details, so you can go and start fixing the issues right away. The beauty again is that you enter the test procedure as if you're discussing it with another human being, either a GRC person or an auditor, and then the model can follow through and specifically find out what are the errors. So we're not just checking whether the evidence have been uploaded, but we unpacked, we look at the context of the content of the evidence, and we make sure that it really matches the requirement. So the model does a very detailed examination of the control effectiveness.
That's right.
Okay, thank you so much, Nick. This was really helpful. Those were 2 really excited features that you're going to see in the next version of the product is coming out. Again, this is George and Nick from Trustero. Thank you so much for joining us. Come back next time. So we're going to talk about even more exciting features, how we can use AI to optimize the efficiency of the effectiveness of your governance, risk, and compliance program. Thank you.